how to make a request of a narcissist. As I repeatedly explained to you, the most effective approach when dealing with our kind is GOSO, namely get out, stay out. And you do this through the imposition of a robust no-contact regime. The value of achieving this means it is invariably worth making certain sacrifices in terms of, for instance, having that final word over the narcissist, maybe writing off money that is owed to you, kissing goodbye to that gay unicorn sculpture, or even hoping for some kind of explanation as to what has happened. Jettisoning those things, and thus securing no contact, is eminently preferable. The benefit of achieving no contact outweighs trying to address those outstanding matters. You don't give us any fuel. You avoid adverse consequences. You start reducing your emotional thinking. You don't increase the risk of hoovers. Even if you can, driven by flawed logic, point to something that you believe is an upside of continuing to have some form of interaction with the narcissist, I'll give you at least 5 reasons why you ought not to do it. Not only is the reason that you think a good one, founded on flawed logic, countering it, there'll be at least 5 reasons why you ought not to do it. Keep in mind that not only do our kind not provide you with any closure, won't give you answers, and will also use the interaction to future fake you, give you false hope, we will also utilize outstanding issues such as money, possessions, payment of bills as part of the maintenance of ever-presence and as hoover triggers, as explained in Why the Narcissist Leaves Property with You. The attempt at a successful no-contact regime is littered with the residue of the narcissistic entanglement. I cannot emphasize enough that you should always strive to apply GOSO and implement a no-contact regime, because we absolutely hate no contact. It's the stake through the heart. It wounds us, not only in terms of the fact that you've escaped us, but it wounds us because you are keeping away from us and preventing us from getting to you. You are undermining us, making us feel vulnerable. You're making us feel less powerful. Yes, we will deal with it in different ways, ultimately being forced to go elsewhere and asserting control through withdrawal. So we always get to that point of control, but the initial experience of bumping up against your wall of no contact is not one that is pleasant at all for the narcissist. There are many, many useful aspects of the maintenance of your no contact regime. You, of course, remove yourself from the abuse that you've been suffering, in whatever form that takes. You are then creating a fire break, giving you time to recover, physical injuries to mend, getting your emotions in check, addressing regular sleep patterns once again, reducing anxiety, allowing your bank balance to recover, repairing relationships with other people that have been damaged by the narcissist. There's a whole array of different matters that can then be corrected, healed and fixed. You're also ensuring that enemy within, your emotional thinking, comes down. Nothing is more important than your no-contact regime. Nevertheless, there may be certain occasions where you deem it necessary to make a request of our kind in order to seek some kind of outcome or resolution. You should always look to the no-contact regime first, and think very carefully before whether taking such a step of making a request of the narcissist is absolutely necessary. Apply a very high standard to this. Your goal should be no contact, and you should be looking to cater for the no contact rather than thinking, I will do the request and no contact later. If you are in any doubt as to making the right decision, consult with me, and I'll provide you with the irrefutable cold hard logic that you need. However, it might be the case that you are owed a considerable sum of money, and you want to at least try and get that back before going to law. And therefore, in certain instances, after careful evaluation, you make a request of the narcissist. It's very important to emphasize that you should look to the no contact regime first, think very, very carefully about whether you should take this step at all, and thirdly, that you fix this in your mind. You will never, ever make a narcissist do something with a guarantee of success. This is because of the way that our narcissism works. However, you may be able to improve your prospects to secure an outcome because it's favourable to the narcissist and it's what the narcissist wants by making a request in the form that I'm going to describe to you in this video. I repeat, this video is not going to make it happen because there is no way of ever making a narcissist do what you want through threat, persuasion, or request. If you need to make the narcissist do something, you need to use the law if the law supports your case and you have the evidence to support it. But there can be occasions where a carefully constructed request in the right circumstances succeeds because the way that it is formulated appeals to the narcissist, and only because the narcissist wants this to happen as well, you gain the outcome without making common mistakes which threaten the narcissist's control. So the purpose of this video is to get you to understand that you will never, ever make the narcissist do something with a guarantee of success. So forget about that. That you should really always go to the no contact regime. But if there is something where you want to try and achieve something, before you go to law to achieve it, because the teeth of the law will bite on the narcissist and compel compliance, you can make the request. Here are some do's and don'ts in respect of how to make a request to a narcissist. Keep in mind that these points are not standalone and impact on one another in terms of the overall outcome that can be achieved. Number 1. The first significant point is to take heed of the very title of this video. Make a request. Although it may sicken you to have to be polite and civil to us after the way that you have been treated, if you make a demand of us, you will get nowhere, because this will be challenge fuel, and you will fail immediately. In accordance with our need to always maintain control, making a demand of us is the proverbial red rag to the bull. Depending on how this demand is made, it will either be challenge fuel, which means that we will have to assert control over you and we will look to obtain negative fuel from you, and we will respond in an intransigent, obnoxious and obstructive manner to this demand, or it might wound us, and therefore you will receive an even more sustained response from us, because not only are you threatening our control, you're not giving us fuel. Either way, your demand will be dead in the water, and you'll be subjected to either heated or cold fury. No matter how much it pains you, never use phrases such as, "You have to do this," "You must pay me immediately," "If you do not do this, then." Instead, you should utilize phrases including, "It would be appreciated if you could," "I hope that you might be able to," "Would you be so kind as to?" We reject being commanded to do anything, since we are the doers and not the done to. No matter how right you may feel about making a demand, no matter how justified or entitled you may see it, from your position, you must resist the temptation to couch your interaction with us in such terms. 2. Timing. This is crucial in terms of maximizing the potential for success with your request. Naturally, any request made to us during the relevant golden period is highly likely going to meet with a greater level of success, but that is of little help to you. You're not likely to be asking for your antique banker's lamp back during the golden period, or requesting that the utilities bills be settled promptly. The request that you'll be thinking of making is going to be made either post-escape or post-disengagement. and it is in those instances that the issue of timing becomes paramount. A. Don't bother with making any request in the immediacy of your escape from our kind. By immediacy, I mean the first month post-escape. Your escape will have meant that you will have been deemed to be a traitor. If you make the request during the initial Grand Hoover, which is our concerted attempt to pull you back under our control into the formal relationship again, then it will only be seen as further evidence of your treachery. If you want money to be repaid, that not only signals to us that you have no interest in coming back to us, but making such a request will either be challenge fuel or will wound us. If you make your request following an unsuccessful initial Grand Hoover, if we don't have a replacement intimate partner primary source, assuming that was the position you held in the fuel matrix, then your request will, in all likelihood, be agreed to with the condition that you return to us. Never fall for that. This will be a future fake. We will agree to returning those items or paying you back if you come and see us, so that we can then assert control over you more readily and draw more fuel from you. But the return of the possessions will not happen. B. If you become aware that the narcissist is pursuing a new intimate partner primary source interest and that is in the early stages, the first few weeks of the pursuit, don't bother making your request. You remain painted black, seen as a traitor, and we will also be concerned that you're trying to make us look bad in front of this new prospect. Furthermore, our inherent paranoia will mean that we will treat the request with the utmost suspicion, regarding it as a Trojan horse, for the purpose of you trying to inveigle your way back in to wreak havoc on our new golden period. C. If we have an embedded intimate partner primary source and all is sunny in paradise in Narc world, this is your optimum opportunity to acquire a favourable outcome. The reason for this is that the narcissist will be far more secure in the golden period with an embedded intimate partner primary source. Furthermore, the appearance of the facade of us being kind, decent and honourable will be of importance, and whilst there is no absolute guarantee that we will acquiesce to your request, you do improve the chances. The narcissist will want to be seen in front of the embedded IPPS as magnanimous, that there is no grudge, that we have moved on, and we want to show the new IPPS and members of the coterie that we are benevolent. Of course, there are limits to this largesse, but by approaching us at this time and adopting the other points in this video, you will improve your chances of a favourable outcome. D. If we have disengaged from you, you have been painted black. In all likelihood, there will be a new intimate partner primary source, and therefore in terms of timing, you should pay heed to the points made at A, B and C earlier. E. If we have disengaged from you, and there is no intimate partner primary source as far as you can tell, there will be no point making the request, because you will remain black, because we have chosen to disengage from you with no intimate partner primary source to move to. Such a step may well have been taken as a consequence of total treachery on your part, consequence perhaps of exposure or massive wounding, and therefore any request made at this time will be met with being ignored at best and a horrendous malign hoover at worst. Timing is very important, and you need to be able to recognise where we are likely to be at with regards to our dynamic with other appliances before making your request. If you are unsure about this, utilise me, and I will provide you with the analysis so you know where you are with the timing. 3. Never, ever make the request in person. No matter how hard you try to remain neutral, by appearing in person before us, you will provide us with fuel through what you say, how you say it, the tone of your voice, your facial expression, the look in your eyes, your body language, and so forth. This means that we will give the appearance of considering your request, but all we'll actually focus on is either gaining more fuel from you or pulling you back into the former relationship, dependent on when this happens. Even if you make the request when we are in the situation of an embedded intimate partner primary source, your appearance in person will defeat the request because we see the opportunity to gain fuel from you, either positively by agreeing and future faking you so you keep revisiting, or by provoking you to give negative fuel by putting you down in some way. We see those as more important than looking good for the appearance of the facade. Keep in mind also that your emotional thinking is far more likely to govern your responses if you're with us in person, and this will result in you giving instinctive automatic responses which will go against your aims. 4. Don't make the request by telephone. Although the quantity of fuel will not be as great as if you made the request in person, there's still a decent quantity to be obtained, and we will seize on that opportunity, rather than focus on making us look good by agreeing to your request. By speaking to us, you are again more likely to give us fuel and also to be governed by emotional thinking as we goad you, be it for positive or negative fuel. 5. Do not make the request by text message or social media message. You will end up clipping your message in a way which will make it appear like a demand. It is easier for us then to ignore it. 6. Always make the request in writing, and that means either in an email or a handwritten letter, if you can remember what one of those is. Why do this? A. Evidence. Your request, of course, is not guaranteed to meet with success, but where it eventually leads to, perhaps police involvement or going through the courts, your prospects then of success will be boosted considerably by having this evidence in place and not having to rely on oral evidence. You're creating a paper trail. B. Best front shown. You will be far more considered, logical and restrained in a written request than one that is made in person or by telephone. Keep in mind that some of our kind will film or record you and use edited highlights to discredit you when you become angry, frustrated or exasperated. You obviate this when you make the request in writing. C. You will be able to take your time in composing the most effective request. You will be able to reflect on it, remove as much fuel as possible from it. If need be, I'll edit it for you. I have done this for many people who've consulted with me. Avoid anything which would be construed as demanding or wounding and maximising therefore your effectiveness. D. Even if you happen to provide some fuel, the written word conveys the lowest quantity by reason of the absence of hearing the tone, seeing the facial expression, and so forth. The written word can be emotive, but it is at the lowest end in terms of the quantity of fuel, and may even just be thought fuel, based upon how we consider you to have been when you wrote the correspondence. E. Building a paper trail. If the request is not agreed to and you therefore have to use a formal channel, complain to a body, commence litigation, or use the police, for instance, the fact that you have created a paper trail will move matters far more heavily in your favour. 7. Never plead, never cajole, never threaten. This will either cause us to sense that there is more fuel in the offing, or will amount to challenge fuel, and therefore we will focus on the fuel and the assertion of control, and your request will be forgotten about as we go off on a different frolic. 8. Provide some flattery, but never go overboard. It's acceptable to write in terms such as, I know you are a reasonable person. Quieten down at the back, I can hear you sniggering. I know you are the right person to assist with this matter. I know you can resolve this for both our benefits. Note the use of I know and not I think. Using I know is a strong assertion and leaves no room for doubt. However, don't become obsequious or over the top in your praise or compliments, because this will either cause us to sense that there's more fuel on offer, or we will basically regard you as taking the piss, and this will be challenge fuel and will defeat your carefully constructed correspondence. In either case, this causes us to focus on the fuel and or asserting control over you, and your request then becomes lost in the process. Number 9. This is very important. Make the request once and once only. If you do not get a response, or the response is rejection, stop. Do not go back. If you do, all we will do is future fake and provoke you. If the request doesn't meet with success, and as I've explained it's not guaranteed to do so, then you've made your point, and you should then proceed to escalate the matter through a formal channel. Don't keep chipping away going, did you get an email? Put a delivered and read receipt on it. Don't demand that the request is answered. See the point that I made earlier about issuing demands. 10. If the execution of the request requires the delivery up of property, the return of possessions and such like, politely request that this is done through a third party and specify when they will attend to collect goods or deliver property, etc. With regard to money, you can arrange for this either to be paid into an account, or if it is cash, have it handed to the trustworthy third party. Do not suggest that you will meet with us to execute the request. This will cause us to see an opportunity to gain fuel, and therefore we will deny the request or string it out and delay you. 11. Ensure the request is clear. Never suggest a meeting beforehand to discuss it. Don't invite us to advance counter-proposals. Do not fudge the issue. Identify what needs to be done, make the request in a clear fashion, noting precisely what should be provided, for example, when and how. Invite a third party to review the written request so it reads clearly, and there is no scope for misunderstanding. We will exploit a lack of clarity in order to contact you in person, to hoover you, to assert control and draw fuel. 12. Politely request that the response from us is sent to a third party. You should always make the request. Do not do so by proxy, as this will insult us and will challenge us or wound us, that you couldn't even be bothered to do the courtesy of asking us to begin with, and therefore your request will immediately fail. However, detail in the request that the performance of the request and confirmation should be provided to a third party who you can trust. This will then prevent us the opportunity from hoovering you and thus dodge the purpose of the request. It also means that you may also maximize your prospects of a successful outcome when you're painted black still. If we don't have to deal with you, when there is a concern, for instance, that you might interfere in the blossoming seduction of a new intimate partner primary source, then this will improve your chances. 13. Identify the school of narcissist that you are dealing with and tailor the request accordingly. The lesser will have lower energy levels, and there is a greater risk of an ignition of fury more readily. Therefore, look at ways at making his compliance easier. For instance, send someone to collect, rather than wanting him to come and deliver the items, for example. The mid-ranger will want to be seen as the good egg, so factor that into how you phrase the request. The greater or the ultra will be above such trivialities, and you may benefit from suggesting that one of the greater or ultras' people liaises with one of your people to execute the request. 14. Do not offer a reward or incentive for compliance. This will then become the focus of our response, and this will be sought because of our sense of entitlement without acceding to your request. If you show you're willing to give us something in return, which we regard ourselves as being entitled to anyway, we will focus on that instead. 15. Seek my assistance with the bespoke solution to the relevant situation so all factors are considered and taken into account, and I can draft you a request which is far more likely to succeed. 16. If the request doesn't work, don't be disheartened. Look at it this way. You were never going to get it anyway. You've tried, and whilst it didn't work, you've avoided giving much fuel, you've not made a show of yourself. You will have breached no contact, but not in a way that's going to cause you huge problems. You will not cause a huge increase in your emotional thinking, and you've established a constructive platform which will allow you to, if you wish, and you have the basis for doing so, to escalate the matter in order to bring about compliance through an alternative method. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.